Good morning, I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day. Now, it's Music Month time, and for the last 2 years, I've done the same thing every month with Music Month, and I've chosen 5 songs and 1 album that represent a certain mood or theme or genre, and I thought that I'm really f***ing bored of doing that now, so I've come up with a new idea for what I'm going to do with the monthly music videos that I make. What I am now going to do is basically create an ongoing playlist that will be accessible on Spotify. Every month I'm going to choose 10 songs and add 10 new songs into the playlist. Now, they won't be centered around a specific theme or mood or genre. There will just be 10 songs that I engage with on a personal level. It's something that I feel will help me to keep listening to and discovering new music and putting it in that playlist, because I don't want the playlist to just become a whole load of tracks that I've mentioned in previous Music Month videos. So there'll be lots of songs that I've only recently discovered. However, the 10th track will always be one of my favorite ever pieces of music. So it'll be like 10 tracks that I really like and I'm really into at that moment in time. And then the final track will be something that has historical, sentimental value and meaning to me personally. And what I'm hoping will happen is that at the end of the year, I'll be able to look at this playlist and it be a sort of documented story of my life that year. You know, I'll know which songs represent different things and different things that were going on when I was really into that song, and I just think it would be really cool. And it also means that I don't have to keep creating a new playlist that just serves no purpose other than to sort of be listened through once. You know, this means that this will become a fluid, constantly evolving and developing playlist of tracks that are kind of very close to me and that I really enjoy, but will also hopefully document a bit of musical exploration that I go through throughout the year. I'm really excited to do this, and yeah, also I know I need to shave. I'll be sorting that out soon, I'm sure. So yeah, let's get into it. And if you have any suggestions about what I'm going to call this playlist, let me know down in the comment section, because at the moment I'm probably just going to call it like My 2019, but I don't want people to think that it's a playlist composed entirely of music that was only released in 2019. But anyway, yeah, let me know that down in the comments. Oh, and very quickly, pre-order my EP, please. It's going to be released on vinyl in a couple of weeks. It's quite a limited run, so if you wanted to pre-order yourself one of those, then there's a link in the description there for you to do so, and thank you so much to those who already have. Anyway, the first track on my 2019 playlist is by an artist called Ep.1, and it's called It's Real. I found out about this song through following Paul Thomas Saunders on Instagram, and he uploads occasionally these like toothpaste tunes stories, and I just was really taken by it, and it's a song that is beautifully produced. It's primarily just piano and vocals, but there's a lot of really interesting production work that goes on behind all of that if you're listening closely to it. At the moment, I'm trying not to listen to that song too much because it sort of emotionally breaks me a little bit, but the lyrics, the production are amazing. And it's also really interesting because the very first time I listened to it, I didn't quite get it. It's very long form. Some songs, and I really like it when this happens, the structure isn't always apparent, especially if they're longer, because, you know, a verse takes 1.5 minutes instead of 30 seconds. So I love the fact that I didn't quite understand it, and then after a few more listens I became familiar with where the sections changed and how it developed, and it's just wonderful. It's a wonderful piece of music. It's quite sad. Most of the tracks on this playlist are quite sad. Probably try not to listen to them if you're feeling too sad. So that's track number 1, Ep.1, It's Real. Track number 2 is by Lauv, and it's a very well-known song. It's called Breathe. Again, potentially quite a hard-hitting song lyrically, but it's one that I have been listening to for about 1.5 years, I think was when I first heard it, and it always sticks in my brain like a parasite. I love Lauv's production on all of his tracks, and there's very little that he's released that I don't like, but this song definitely has like a special place, so that's track number 2 on the list, Breathe by Lauv. Track number 3 is by a similar artist in terms of the production style, kind of mostly electronic sounding stuff, but it's by Yo Massey and is called Take Cover. It's one of the tracks on his latest full-length release, Soldier, which is a really nice album. I've always really enjoyed Yo Massey's work, because what's the first album he released? Life in Boxes, that's what it's called. But yeah, really like all of his stuff. He's got a nice production style. Mr. Suicide Sheep, the YouTube channel, introduced me to his work, and this is just one of the cooler songs, I think, from that latest album. The development of the hook with that ascending, manipulated vocal pitch thing going on is just done really well, and yeah, it's just a lovely track. So it's track number 3. Track number 4, I'm sure I've mentioned in previous Music Month videos. It's a wonderful but heart-wrenching and devastating piece of music to listen to, but it's by the Boxer Rebellion, and it's called Caught by the Light. I heard it for the first time watching a very well done episode of Shameless, the US version, and immediately Shazammed it and downloaded it on iTunes. It's got this haunting, kind of very grim and Like, it's sad. It's not sad in the way that a song like Breathe by Lauv is. It's sad in a really, really like depressing way, I suppose, for lack of a better word. But I find it a very cathartic track to listen to, especially considering its lyrical content, and the singing is done very well for the style of track it is. It's just, it's a wonderful piece of music, but probably skip it if you're feeling quite grim. Track 5 is by one of my favourite artists, and it is the first track on the playlist that will have come out in 2019. It is called Mile High by James Blake, and it's so fucking good. It might feel slightly juxtaposed to the other tracks on the playlist so far. They've all been fairly, you know, soft or more emotionally driven. Not that this isn't an emotional song, but this is kind of, you know, trappy hip-hop. It's a collaboration between James Blake, Travis Scott, and Metro Boomin. And I, as someone who doesn't listen to that type of music frequently, have listened to that song so much over the last like week and a half. There's something about the production and that weird kind of delayed, floaty, like squeaky wheel sounds that keeps popping into the mix. That it's haunting. It's a really like haunting and hypnotizing track to listen to. It kind of lures you into this floating ethereal zone, and then the vocal part starts, and it's just wonderful. So yeah, track 5 on the list, halfway through. Mile High by James Blake featuring Travis Scott and Metro Boomin. Next we have a song by a wonderful indie band, The Howl and the Hum, and it's called God Manchester Chinese Bridge. I saw The Howl and the Hum live at the BBC introducing stage at the biggest weekend in Swansea last year, and I can remember thinking when I was watching them that they were pretty cool. I was like massively overheating and probably quite drunk, so I wasn't paying as much attention as I should have been to them, but they stuck in my mind enough to then want to listen to them a bit more when I was more capable of doing so. So listen to a load of their stuff on Spotify. But that track stood out to me out of all of them. And I think it's also their most popular track, which is cool. But it's really, really nice. And I love songs that are written by British bands where you can hear the sort of... heritage is the wrong word, but you can just hear that they're British. They're not like hiding that and talking about things that anyone can relate to. Like the singer at one point describes the Midlands, and this is something that anyone who is from the UK will, especially England, will know exactly what he's talking about. And I just really like that. And lyrically, it's got interesting subject matter, and I like things that talk about emotions that lots of people have gone through, but in a more unique perspective, and maybe a perspective that takes into account some of the more like unpleasant things that you may feel about certain situations, you know. And yeah, it's just a really cool song. Next, track number 7 on this list is a song that I'm sure all of you have heard, or at least have heard of. It's very, very popular. It's by an amazingly talented singer, and I don't know if she produces it, but a singer artist called Billie Eilish, and it's called When the Party's Over. I was a little bit late to the game in discovering this song, but I can remember just watching the music video for it and just being like hypnotized by it and watching it so intently, and it's wonderful. The music is amazing. The production is so cool. What I like is that it's gritty as well. It's easy to make music with, you know, a harmony engine on vocals that is really floaty and just sounds a little bit like Bon Iver. But this track takes that kind of inspiration but adds its own flavor to it. Yeah, I can remember watching it and being like, that was fucking genius. Like the music video as well, I just thought the whole thing was done amazing well. Lyrics, production, music video. And then I realized that she's like 16 or 17 years old or something, and I wanted to like kill myself and give up. Track number 8 on the list is by a kind of indie electronic-y artist called Fractures, and it's called It's Alright. Another quite heart-wrenching song, but one that also has a fair amount of hope built into it, as you might expect with a name like It's Alright. I love the vocal timbre that's present in this song. It's one of those voices that doesn't sound like, you know, a pop vocal. Certain people have a very poppy sounding voice just naturally, and this guy doesn't, but that is completely to his advantage because it makes when he starts singing really like stand out, and it's just a beautiful song from start to finish, and there's a fantastic music video that accompanies it. So if you're on YouTube, definitely watch the music video. Track 9, the penultimate track on this list, is by an artist I've mentioned loads and loads of times, Benjamin Francis Leftwich. It's called Shine, and it's charming and it's beautiful and it's wholesome and it's wonderful, and his voice is amazing, and the production and the mixing is done really well for that kind of soft acoustic music. It's a classic Benjamin Francis Leftwich track. I mean, if you were a teenager in like 2010 to 2014 and you were ever into sort of indie folk music, then you'll know who he is, you'll know what he sounds like. It's just brilliant. And finally, that brings us to track number 10 on this list, the final track, and this is, as I said earlier, one of my favorite pieces of music. It's one of my favorite songs, and every 10th track on these monthly videos is going to be something that has significant sentimental value to me, something that I listen to a lot and have done for years. And that is by an amazing artist that I wish would just release a second album, for fuck's sake, Paul Thomas Saunders, and is called Santa Muerte's Lightning and Flare. It is the penultimate track on his debut and to this date only full-length release, and it's one of the songs that made me sort of fall in love with him as an artist the most, because it's quite long. I really like long form songs. I mean, the last track on my EP is 13 and a half minutes, for fuck's sake. But yeah, it's long form, and I feel like all of the other bits of that record that I love the most were like distilled and condensed into this track, and then it was elongated, and it's just wonderful. Like, Paul Thomas Saunders has a very unique and distinctive voice that is just magical. The production styles are always really, really well done. It's kind of indie electronic-y, but like heavy on the reverb. And when I say electronic, I don't mean that it's like just completely mashed into a computer. I think a lot of the effects are done at least using real outboard gear, real hardware, analog synthesizers, and, you know, affecting vocals and stuff. But yeah, there's just a ton of reverb on everything, and it's great. And he's one of my favorite artists when it comes to interesting lyrics with unique perspectives, and just being able to vocalize and express things that you wouldn't hear in conventional, even like indie music, I guess. But yeah, Santa Muerte's Lightning and Flare is so, so good, especially the very first time. There are two of my favorite moments in it are at the end of the first chorus when he's like lightning and flare, and he just holds that note for ages, and you think when you're listening to it that it's going to end at a specific point, but it just doesn't, and then you can't really hear the end of it because a reverb tail kind of takes over at a certain point. But it's so like wow when you're listening to it. And then the other bit is lyrically, it was a well-rehearsed line told 100 times. The way that his voice suddenly becomes intimate, and it's like he leant in really close to the mic and kind of almost whispered that line, and it just works so well. And he's a fantastic artist, and Paul, please make some more music. So yeah, that concludes the very first episode of my 2019 Spotify playlist. A link to the playlist will be in the description there, alongside links to my EP if you wanted to have a listen to that. It's available on all major streaming platforms, and like I said at the beginning, if you wanted to pre-order a copy on vinyl, then there's a link down in the description. And I'd love to know what your thoughts are on the tracks that I've mentioned, and your thoughts on this idea in general, the idea of continually evolving playlist that I'm going to make. I just think it's a nice way of still making these Music Month videos, because I do enjoy doing them, but making it more interesting than what it was last year and the year before that. So yeah, and by all means suggest me some artists, and then it could well be that they'll end up in next month's Spotify playlist update. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed this. Let me know what your thoughts are on anything that I said down in the comments there. If you like what I do, then by all means subscribe. My Instagram is linked down there if you wanted to follow me on that as well. Thank you so much. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day, and I'll see you very soon.